Hello and welcome. We are the Sharks, and our presentation is going to be about the pros and cons of animal testing, or also known as animal experiment. We're going to start off by talking about the cons, specifically the cons in the cosmetic industry. For many years now, the cosmetic industry has been testing on animals for multiple things, specifically just to gain profit. Unfortunately, many people are unaware of the injuries and treatment these animals go through while these tests are being conducted on. For one example, most common injuries are chemical burns, as lotions and oils are placed on the skin of the animal and study the effects afterwards. The other one is blindness, as shampoos are placed on the eyes of the animals to study irritation on human effects. And ultimately, death, as these animals are placed on tests over and over again until they are put to rest. The next and the most controversial topic is the unnecessary use of animal testing. Many companies now have been testing on animals for many years, and fortunately, some companies have strict rules to have no animal testing whatsoever. These companies are Lush, Suki, and Marc Jacobs Beauty. These companies produce their products and sell worldwide, selling millions of their products every day. Fortunately, there have been many alternative tests already made to reduce the number of animals being used in animal testing. For example, the Vitro test, which replicates human skin cells, and doctors can use these to conduct their test on. Also, advanced computer analysis, which produce medical and virtual experiments to be used using the mathematical and existing data we have today.
Furthermore, we have the cons of animal testing in relation to medicine. In the United States, we have several agencies that use animal experimentation because they are required to by law. The Environmental Protection Agency, Food and Drug Administration, and the National Institute of Health are a few that test on animals regularly. Like with anything in the medical industry, there are costs involved. It's estimated that about 40% of the National Institute of Health research funds are for testing certain products on animals. In 2014, this was about $12 billion in taxpayer money. For example, there are currently about 1,000 chimpanzees for use in the US, and a little less than half of them are owned by the government. When considering maintenance of not only the faculty but of the animals and the other hidden fees, the US spends about $7 million per year on chimps alone. This is alarming to most when they realize that a majority of medicines approved for human testing or clinical trials through animal experimentation fail at some point. For example, in the 80s and 90s, when HIV and AIDS were at the height of one of the bigger health concerns we had here in the US, the National Institute of Health created a program where they would breed chimps. Eventually, they found that chimps could not contract the HIV disease, and therefore they had an excess of chimps that they could not use for medical research in this field. Another example of the lack of efficacy for animal testing is a drug called Vioxx. Vioxx is an NSAID medication similar to ibuprofen or naproxen. Its main uses were to relieve symptoms of arthritis, menstrual pains, and other acute pains in adults. Vioxx was approved to be effective and safe for human use through animal testing, and in 2004, Vioxx was taken off of the market because it increased the risk of heart attack and stroke, contributing to over 60,000 deaths since its release. Other medications with similar outcomes include Resolin, Propulsid, and Oraflex. These findings are just a few ways in which animal testing yields unsatisfying results.
Animal testing, also known as animal experimentation, animal research, and in vivo testing, is the use of non-human animals in experiments that seeks to control the variables that affect the behavior or biological system under study. The earliest reference to the animal testing are found on the Greeks in the 2nd and 4th century before Christ. In the 1970s, antibiotic treatments and vaccines for leprosy were developed using armadillos, and then it was given to humans. And this genetic research progressed rapidly, and in 1996, Dolly the sheep was born, and it was the first mammal to be cloned from an adult cell. The regulation that applies to animals in laboratories vary across species. In the US, under the provision of the Animal Welfare Act and the Guide for the Care and Use of Laboratory Animals, published by the National Academy of Science, any procedure can be performed on an animal if it can be successfully argued that it's scientifically justified. The Institutional Animal Care and Use Committee must ensure that alternatives, including non-animal alternatives, have been considered, that the experiments are not unnecessarily duplicative, and that pain relief is given unless it would interfere with the study. Also, one of the guiding principles for more ethical use of animal testing is refinement. We refer to the methods that alleviate or minimize potential pain, suffering, or distress, and enhance animal welfare for the animal use. These methods include non-invasive techniques. Regulation requires the scientific use as few animals as possible, especially for terminal experiments. These animals are euthanized at the end of the studies for sample collection or postmortem examination. Supporters of animal experiments, such as the British Royal Society, argued that virtually every medical achievement in the 20th century relied on animal use in some ways. Others, like the Institute of Laboratory Animal Research of the United States National Academy of Science, has argued that animal research cannot be replaced even for sophisticated computers which are unable to deal with the extremely complex interaction between molecules, cells, organisms, tissues, and environment. Mice are widely considered to be the best model of inherited human disease and share 99% of their genes with humans. Rats are also widely used for physiology, toxicology, and cancer research, but genetic manipulation is more harder in rats than mice, which limits the use of this rodent in basic science. Cats are more commonly used in neurological research and are used as a model to develop immunodeficiency virus vaccines and study leukemia. Dogs are widely used in biomedical research, testing, and education. They are used as a model for human and veterinary disease in cardiology, endocrinology, and bone and joint research.
Is that animal testing has contributed to many life-saving cures and treatments, like dogs having their pancreases removed, and thus us discovering insulin that till today we use for diabetic people. Animals have a shorter life cycle than humans, making them better for research subjects, since research can study the effects of their treatments or genetic manipulations in a whole life cycle. Without animal testing, millions of dogs, cats, birds, and farm animals, and many more other animals, they would be dead from more than 200 diseases, including anthrax, distemper, rabies, feline leukemia, and canine parvoviruses, according to American for Medical Progress, a nonprofit group that supports the responsible and humane use of animals in biomedical research. Testing on benefits them as well for veterinary purposes like medicine to treat them when they are sick, hurt, or gruesome pain, stomach aches, ear infections, and surgical procedures. If you have ever taken antibiotics, had a vaccine, blood transfusion, dialysis, or organ transplant, chemotherapy, bypass surgery, or joint replacements, those are some of the benefits that we have gained from animal testing and research. Although almost every drug, treatment, medical device, and cure that has developed throughout the years has been because of animals and their testing. Another benefit from all these are that those animals that live through their experiments eventually mutate and pass along their new genetics to others, and thus making them immune to the diseases that they have been tested on and many more that are similar alike and can benefit from not getting sick or being killed by those diseases. Computer modules can also be used, but they are only reliable if accurate information is gleaned from animal research is used and built in modules in the first place. Furthermore, even the most popular supercomputer is unable to accurately simulate the working of complex organs such as the brain and other organs that you could only do from animals. And yes, although animal testing may seem cruel, testing on human beings is unethical. The World Association Declaration of Helsinki has stated that human trials testing should be preceded by tests on animals. Living systems like human beings and animals are extremely complex. Studying cell cultures on a petri dish, while sometimes useful, does not provide the opportunity to study interrelated processes occurring in the central nervous system, endocrine system, and immune system. Evaluating a drug for side effects requires a circulatory system to carry the medicine and through the different organs. Also, conditions such as blindness, high blood pressure cannot be studied by the tissue culture. And yes, even though a lot of animals are being tested on, the effect of it is not that big because animals are there are too many animals, and humans, we are only little. And sometimes one of those testings are just for the animal's safety, like maybe one of them is sick, or maybe it could be for the whole ecosystem, so it benefits them as well as our planet.
Test rabbit 0466 is one of 150 million test animals in the world today. Over 100 million of these animals are killed every year and replaced with new ones. While alive, they suffer great abuse because of the testing performed on them to develop chemicals, drugs, food, and beauty products. They are burned, drugged, poisoned, sprayed, and blinded with chemicals, cleaning products, and cosmetics. They are lonely and scared, driven into insanity by boredom, stress, and horrible abuse. All of this before they are eventually killed. For more information on how to find out how you can stop this unnecessary abuse, please visit www.peta.org.